Your dog just walked across the room, picked something up, and dropped it right on top of your foot. And your brain did what every dog owner's brain does in that split second. It whispered, "He wants to play." That's the story we've all been told. That's the assumption that gets passed down from one dog owner to the next like it's some kind of universal law. But here's the twist nobody tells you. That little wet toy sitting on your shoe has almost nothing to do with playing fetch. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because once you hear what's actually going on inside your dog's head in that moment, you are never going to look at that simple gesture the same way again. And before we go any further, if you've ever owned a dog or love one, or you're just someone who wants to understand animals a little better, smash that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to walk you through is going to change the way you see your best friend forever. So let's talk about why this matters in the first place, because trust me, by the end of this video you're going to look at your own dog completely differently. Dogs have lived beside humans for thousands and thousands of years, and across all that shared history, they've quietly built this incredible, almost invisible language made up of tiny gestures, small movements, and subtle behaviors that look meaningless on the surface, but are actually loaded with emotion underneath if you know how to read them. The toy drop is one of those gestures. On the surface it looks simple. It looks like nothing worth thinking twice about. But underneath that simplicity is one of the richest, most emotionally packed signals your dog sends you on any given day. And here's the wild part. Most people miss it completely every single time. Because we've all been conditioned since childhood to see a toy and instantly think game. We toss it. The dog chases it. We feel like we've done our job as a good pet parent. And we move right along with our afternoon without giving it a second thought. But somewhere buried inside that quick, forgettable exchange, something genuinely important slips right past us, completely unnoticed, unappreciated, and totally misunderstood. This isn't just some cute internet theory either. This is rooted in real behavioral science, real observation, and decades of research into how dogs think, feel, and communicate with the people around them. And once you understand it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. At home, on walks, during quiet evenings on the couch. You'll start catching these moments in real time, instead of letting them slip by unnoticed. So keep watching, because what comes next is going to reshape the way you think about every single interaction you have with your dog from this point forward. Here's the challenge, though, and it's a challenge every single dog owner on the planet runs into without even realizing it. Dogs can't sit us down at the kitchen table and calmly explain their feelings to us. They can't send us a text message that says, "Hey, I just wanted to check if you still love me," or "I brought you this because it makes me feel closer to you." They simply don't have words. What they have instead is behavior, small repeated actions that carry enormous emotional weight underneath, if only we take the time to slow down and actually read them. And out of every behavior in the entire canine playbook, the toy drop might be the single most misunderstood one of all. It gets treated, almost universally, as a simple request for entertainment, a way of saying, "Throw this for me," when in reality it is something layered, something old, something that traces all the way back to how dogs' wild ancestors survived, cooperated, and bonded within their pack thousands of years ago. The real problem is that almost nobody stops long enough to actually study what's happening right in front of them. We're busy, we're distracted, we're scrolling through our phones, half paying attention, mentally somewhere else entirely. We toss the toy without giving it a second thought, satisfied that we've fulfilled our duty as a pet owner. And in doing exactly that, over and over again, day after day, we accidentally overlook one of the sweetest, most sincere, most emotionally honest things our dog does for us on a regular basis. Think about how many times this exact scene has played out in your own home without you ever realizing what was actually happening underneath the surface. Let's dig into what's actually happening here, layer by layer, because there is so much more going on underneath the surface than a simple request to play a game. And by the time we get through all 5 of these layers, I promise you'll never see that little gesture the same way again. So stick around, because layer 5 is honestly the one that surprises people the most. First, understand this: in a dog's world, objects aren't just objects. A toy isn't just a piece of rubber, fabric, or squeaky plastic sitting around the house. To your dog, that toy is completely soaked in meaning. It holds their scent. It holds memory. It's practically the closest thing a dog has to a personal treasure, something they claim as theirs, something they carry around proudly, something that belongs to them and no one else. So when your dog picks up that treasured item, carries it across the room, walks it directly over to you, sets it down carefully near your hand, your knee, or your foot, and then just waits, that is not some random accident. That is a conscious, deliberate act of generosity, plain and simple. Watch closely the very next time it happens, because the details matter here. Your dog doesn't just fling the toy across the room from a distance and trot off in the other direction. They bring it directly to you, on purpose. They place it with real intention, almost like they're setting something down carefully instead of just dropping it. And then they linger nearby, watching your reaction, waiting to see what you'll do, hoping for some kind of acknowledgement. There's actual science behind this too, and it's genuinely fascinating once you dig into it. A canine behavioral researcher who has spent an enormous portion of his career, 3 full decades, in fact, studying exactly how dogs interact socially with each other and with humans, uncovered something really compelling about this specific behavior. In the wild, canines like wolves share resources with other members of their pack, and here's the key part. They don't do it because they need to. They do it as a way of strengthening the emotional bonds that hold the entire group together. The act of sharing itself becomes the message being sent. It was never really about the object physically changing hands from one animal to another. It's about what that whole exchange represents on a deeper social level. And your domesticated dog, sitting comfortably in your living room, thousands of years removed from the wild and from any actual survival pressure, is doing the exact same ancient thing. In their own quiet, wordless way, using the only tools available to them, they are telling you something incredibly powerful. You belong to my circle. You're one of mine. Take a second right now and really sit with that thought, because it's a much bigger statement than most of us ever give it credit for. Now here's the second layer, and honestly, this one might hit a little close to home for a lot of you watching right now. Sometimes your dog isn't bringing you the toy because anything exciting or eventful is happening. Nothing at all is going on. You're just sitting there on the couch, eyes glued to your phone, mindlessly scrolling through something forgettable, and the whole house is dead quiet around you. And then completely out of nowhere, a slobbery, chewed-up tennis ball lands right in your lap. Most people laugh it off without thinking, give the toy a quick half-hearted toss, and go right back to whatever they were doing on their screen a second later. But here's the thing. That moment was never really about the toy at all. That was your dog quietly, gently checking in on you. Dogs are constantly reading our emotional state, even in moments when we have absolutely no idea it's happening. They can sense the subtle difference between us being physically present in a room and us being completely mentally checked out somewhere else entirely. When your body is sitting right there on the couch but your mind has drifted off into your phone, into your own thoughts, into anywhere except the present moment, your dog picks up on that disconnect almost immediately. It's like they can feel the emotional distance even when nothing looks different from the outside. And the toy becomes their gentle, low-pressure, non-demanding way of asking a very simple, very tender question. Are you actually here with me right now? Not just physically sitting in the room, but really, truly here. It's one of the softest, most tender bids for connection that a dog knows how to make in their entire emotional vocabulary. And because it looks so small, so casual, so easy to brush off, we miss it almost every single time it happens. We're too busy congratulating ourselves for tossing the toy to realize what was actually being asked of us in that quiet moment. Now, before we move on to the next layer, I want you to genuinely pause for a second and think about how many times this exact scenario has played out in your own home without you ever noticing. How many quiet afternoons has your dog gently checked in on you like this, and you had absolutely no idea what was really happening? If this is making you rethink some of those moments, drop a comment down below and tell me about it. I read every single one, and trust me, this next part gets even more interesting than what we've covered so far. Third, and this one is honestly kind of heartwarming once you really slow down and sit with it. Your dog wants you to see them being good. Take a real moment the next time it happens and actually watch a dog bring you a toy. Don't just glance over at them out of the corner of your eye. Actually watch closely with full attention. Notice how their tail lifts high into the air. Notice how loose, wiggly, and bouncy their entire body language becomes in that moment. Notice how their eyes stay locked directly on you the whole time, almost like they're waiting for something. That's pride. Genuine, unmistakable, completely authentic pride. Dogs figure out very quickly, often within the first weeks of their life, exactly which behaviors earn them warmth, attention, and affection from the humans around them, and bringing something over to share is one of the very first positive experiences the vast majority of dogs ever have. So here's what I want you to actually do. The next time this happens in your own home, don't just throw the toy without thinking. Kneel down, make eye contact, say something soft. Let your dog know, even just for a second, that you saw them, that you understood what they were really offering you underneath the surface. Because that's the entire secret to building a deeper bond with any dog. Noticing the small things instead of dismissing them as nothing. If this video completely changed the way you see your own dog, do me a huge favor right now. Hit that like button. Drop a comment down below, telling me exactly which part surprised you the most. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next video, because there is a whole lot more about how dogs think, feel, and quietly communicate with us that we're going to dive into together very soon. The more you truly understand your dog, the richer, deeper, and more meaningful that bond between the two of you becomes over time. And honestly, that is a journey absolutely worth sticking around for. So don't go anywhere, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.